So I wanted to read the actual story of why it's called Chastity Shawl. So,
What page?
for those who want to read along, we're on page 40. Oh, tough crowd already tonight. All right. Part of the reason I love visiting Las Vegas isn't for the clubs, or the strip clubs, or the clubs that are half club and part pool. I attend Vegas specifically for the club sandwiches and various crudité of a Las Vegas buffet. This story was pre-pandemic. While a pandemic made me swear off buffets for a long time, I will forever buckle under the beauty of a Vegas buffet. They're full of lush desserts, brimming salad bars, meats of all designs, seafood delights, none for me, and international cuisine that tastes pretty good for what I'm assuming is not an international kitchen. It is the best hour and a half you can spend in the city of sin. You can pay $20 for a burger in Vegas, but why not pay $40 or $50 for a fountain of food? I'm a systematic buffet eater. I always go for expensive foods you can't get at home, and meats. I love a good salad, but never waste my time with dollar bag lettuce at a Vegas buffet. You have to take advantage of the system by getting steaks, sous vide, and eggs Benedict for breakfast, and sometimes you could smuggle an apple for a snack later in the day if you don't appear too conspicuous. Saturday morning, we decided that our first buffet on our list to try was the Wynn. The Wynn is classy and decorated with flower arrangements and a significant waterfall feature. There was no comparison to venues like Hooters that hosted Dollar Blackjack. We weren't staying at the Wynn because we were fresh out of sugar daddies who could afford the room price, but you didn't have to stay at the Wynn to eat the buffet. We were hungry due to the booze and had been roughly 10 or 12 hours since last night's Taco Bell Cantina stop. The line was long, as if we were waiting to ride a roller coaster at Cedar Point. The main difference was that we weren't waiting for a 2-minute adrenaline rush on a steel monster. We were preparing to open our jaws wide like miniature steel jaws of life to eat. The goal was always to eat more than the price of admission. It's almost an ancient art form to eternally calculate a rough idea of what you ate versus how the food you ate at the buffet could be charged a la carte. We paid for our buffet table and waited too long to sit. Something was wrong, but I wasn't sure what it was. It's probably the feeling soldiers have in movies when they think there's a bomb and it turns out to be a bomb and said bomb explodes. The tragedy is that the soldier followed his gut, the bomb wouldn't have killed members of his squad. A woman who reeked of managerial talent approached us. She was holding a shawl. Reeked of it. She was holding a shawl in her left hand, and her knuckles were gripped more than my anticipation to wreck this buffet. The shawl within her grip resembled something an old lady might wear to church, or a shawl you might confuse for a fancy napkin at a French restaurant. It was a wretched mustard yellow color, like grade school puke or cheddar cheese past its prime.
Oh my god, cheddar cheese.
Cheddar cheese.
Past its prime.
The shawl desired to be gold, but fell into a murky mustard yellow that would never be welcomed on any hot dog. One glance at the shawl told me that whoever previously owned this ancient artifact was not disappointed in leaving it behind. This was a piece of clothing you could easily abandon in your travels, or best lost in the far reaches of your closet. You would be disappointed to find that even you had owned this shawl. You'd look at this shawl and wonder, how did I get here? Why would I purchase this in the first place? Had I ever worn that shawl? It might be true what the locals in the town village say, I have no fashion sense. And how had the supervisor come into possession of this shawl? Was it her personal shawl? If that was the case, I needed the fashion police to arrest this woman on the spot, no arrest warrant required. And where had this shawl been? Was it used to wipe spills at tables? A fancy rag that cleaning staff utilized when customers weren't around? Had the shawl been a lost item and the manager held it on behalf of lost and found? Maybe the manager was trying to run after someone who had left their vintage shawl behind the table. Ma'am, the manager cried out with a croaky, broken voice of desperation to find the shawl's original owner. You almost left without taking this ugly piece of fabric with you. Don't worry. Here at the Wynn Buffet, we will always ensure you don't leave anything behind. But instead of any of those scenarios that had quickly whipped into my creative yet arguably neurotic brain, something unexpected happened entirely. The manager aimed her sights at us locking onto us like a cartoon villain, ready to unleash their plan. We were like the enemy submarine, and she was the missile launching. The manager held the shawl like a young man might pick up a sock that he had disgustingly utilized for dirty shenanigans. Finally, she spoke, addressing Monica individually.
Individual.
Miss,
Excuse me.
I'm going to have to ask you to wear this. The manager's tone and eye glance were both judgmental in nature, as if we were kissing cousins or demanding to bring cannibalism back into vogue. It was a judgment that both disapproved of our existence and suggested we were utterly ignorant of her and society's perspective. I could see her clocking out of her shift, driving home to her lovely condo, and venting to her partner, sibling, roommate, neighbor, or cat. You wouldn't believe what happened at the Wynn Hotel today. Monica accepted the shawl, holding it like it had anthrax. I can't believe Monica grabbed onto the shawl in the first place. The shawl carried foreboding energy that made me instinctively back away. Looking into it was like staring into a hole that led to hell. Where am I supposed to wear this? Monica guffawed, looking between me, Annalise Declan, and the supervisor. Annalise Declan and I had no answers to give Monica. I felt like I was on a game show, and it was my turn to provide a solution. I genuinely was speechless and doing a poor imitation of the shrug emoji. Monica had a bare midriff, an open stomach and backside, and booty shorts. There were multiple skin locations, all of which qualified for the supervisor's shawl. If there was an issue with Monica's bare skin, many places could be the problematic region. And for the record, Monica looked fantastic. The supervisor sighed, as if the answer to Monica's question was evident and we were too stupid to piece together the logic. We were tempting her customer service skills to break out into hellfire. The supervisor did a small closed roll of the eyes on the verge of opening their lids for the entire roll effect. The supervisor pointed her finger at Monica as if pointing to the town witch and signaling everyone to grab their fire, rocks, and rope. We have a dress policy, and those shorts are too short for our policy. The supervisor demanded that Monica wrap this crusty shawl around her waist to hide her tanned upper thighs from the room. I looked around the room to see what the enforced dress policy was. A lot of brunch guests were wearing sweatpants. Some of those sweatpants had text scribbled across the cheeks in various proclamations like Wildcats and Juicy. Some proudly wore tatted rags, while the average buffet attendee had donned short pieces of clothing with something on display. It was well over 100 degrees, and most people had dressed accordingly. Monica and Annalise had forgotten to bring their robes to keep men's wandering eyes in check. I doubted anyone was worried about seeing Monica's upper thighs at the buffet. Most men were so full from the limitless buffet situation to become fully aroused. Our arrival was an emergency for the Wynn Hotel buffet staff. Walkie-talkies crackled with code red, improper dress code situation. Men donned SWAT gear designed to stop sexy women from arousing them. Mr. Wynn himself would be abreast of the situation, revolving around Monica's almost visible lower butt cheek. Whoever had allowed us to pay already for the buffet would be fired for gross incompetence. What happened to Shirley? A staff member would ask. Shirley let some harlot wear shorts and almost allowed some trash through, a different staff member would explain. We can't have someone at the Wynn allowing a clothes-denying tart through the buffet line. The mustard shawl had been locked behind glass like a fire extinguisher, imprisoned like Han Solo in Star Wars. Or maybe the shawl was stuck at the bottom of the lost and found pile. An employee scrounged around to find something respectable for Monica to wear. Perhaps they had borrowed the shawl from a visitor or employee. Ma'am, you're well dressed today like a proper woman, the supervisor had said to someone. May we use your shawl to turn this scarlet-lettered slut into a mustard-shawled woman? Did the Wynn themselves sell the shawl? Maybe it was from the 1980s and nobody had purchased it, so it was in the back storage room of the gift shop with the audacity to be on sale for an exuberant $40. But that situation felt too fancy for such a musty-looking shawl. Instead, I bet the supervisor ran to the kitchen, sweat pouring down her neck. Kitchen staff! She cried out, trying to remain calm about the DEFCON 5 situation brewing at the pay desk in the front of the buffet. We have a woman who has decided to dress like any woman you'd see on the Vegas Strip. Does anyone have anything we can wrap her in to hide her from God's heavenly sight? Now maybe I was overthinking the whole situation. What if the shawl had come out of the supervisor's mammoth-sized knockoff brand name purse? The supervisor used her manicured nails to dig deep, bypassing a Luna bar, some crumpled receipts, and some compact that she didn't bother putting on in the first place. And there, shining with a halo, was the shawl. It sat at the bottom of the purse like a murky, mysterious underground lake, and with the shawl in tow, the supervisor confronted the whore who dared to wear booty shorts to a Las Vegas buffet. At this point, Monica still held on to the natty shawl with as few fingers as possible. Monica pushed her hand forward, offering the shawl back to the manager. "I'm not wearing this," Monica muttered, with an outstanding balance of reason and sass. The supervisor looked offended, as if Monica had tossed the rag in her face. Before the supervisor could take a deep breath and blast Monica to the next dimension, Monica came up with a shawl-free option. "What if I just pull my shorts down a bit?" Monica probably had a good inch of fabric that could hide some of her upper thighs without exposing her other sensitive region. The supervisor grabbed the shawl and held it as if she was Mary Magdalene, clutching the cloth used to wipe Jesus' face. Monica rearranged her shorts, which didn't evoke that much of a difference. The supervisor cocked her head 20 degrees to the right, as if she was a curious bird, or if she needed to crack her neck. Was the head cocking supposed to help her in any way? "Well, are the shorts going to stay that way?" the supervisor asked, implying that Monica was lying nearly to eat sirloin. Once free of the clutches of the modesty police, Monica would slide up her pants to showcase her assets. "Yes," Monica said, a bit thrown off but willing to do anything for food. I was stifling a laugh and nodding, as if I was personally going to watch Monica's shorts for any possible shenanigans. I was the night's watch, but for shorts. The supervisor balled up the shawl and then allowed us to be seated. We were then led through the Wynn buffet, filled with people who barely met the dress code themselves. People had their own battles against modesty. Thin spaghetti straps, bras hanging a little loose and wild, shorts that were just an inch lower than Monica's own, sandals that displayed an assortment of feet. Everywhere you looked seemed to host a violator on the cusp of their own chastity shawl. I felt like one of those creepy older men who stare down at a beautiful woman with or without protective clothing, but I noticed more violations that had gone unnoticed. I felt the supervisor's eyes for our entire buffet stay. The supervisor must have been worried that her classy Wynn buffet establishment would fall apart due to one beautiful woman's derriere. I imagined her gritting and grinding her teeth as if she was sanding down corn in a motor bowl with a pestle. The disapproving stare from the supervisor wasn't the first of its kind, but her attitude that we would ruin everything known to man was humorous. All around us, people shoveled buckets of food into their mouths, most likely unoffended by the flesh. Unlike the supervisor, the fellow buffet attendees were aware that worse sins happened in Las Vegas. So I think I would like to continue reading this story for the next sequence due to who we have in the audience tonight. My father and I, who is present, plan to spend Sunday going to Zion National Park. I specifically want to go to this place called Angel's Landing, my father told me, leading up to the trip. I heard it's nice. I didn't have any knowledge of the park or its specifics, but I loved nature, even though I wouldn't declare myself a hiker. I enjoyed walking amongst nature. Usually the hikes I love are flat and filled with gorgeous scenery. For some reason, we only brought a couple bottles of water, no snacks, and no proper gear. I was dressed as more of a tourist wearing activewear than someone trying to accomplish a hike. We arrived at Zion around 11 or noon to find a bustling park. When we arrived, the sun was beginning its afternoon peak. The sun was beating down on people like a landlord looking for rent money. Hikers would tell you that starting your hike this late in the day is a bad idea. The idea is that you're finishing the challenging parts of your trek by the time the sun gets decently high in the sky. The sun and I don't have that great of a relationship either. Quick to burn thanks to my Irish ancestral blood, which probably comes from a history of cave-dwelling humans and natural gray and cloudy skies. In the past, I blistered, burned, seared, and cooked my way through hazardous and painful situations that make me cautious. Zion itself is free, but the parking is not. It feels a bit of a tease, like a free appetizer, but the entree is double the price to offset the cost of the free appetizer. After paying way too much to park, we climbed into the free shuttle ride to go deep into the Zion wilderness. The shuttle ride was not eventful, but I was constantly perking up due to the overhead voiceovers. A series of messages came over the muffled low-def shuttle speakers featuring everyone who worked at the Zion National Park. Hi, it's Mark from the recycling plant at the canyon. Just a reminder not to throw bottles in the park. Hi, it's Janine from Animal Rescue. Please don't feed the animals in the park. They survive on their natural diet. Some of the voice messages felt a bit of a stretch. Hi, this is Julie from Concessions. The perfect meal to eat here is our new seasonal pumpkin bread. The reminder about park recycling felt valid. The message about seasonal slices of bread felt gratuitous. The first stop was where we got on, at the visitor center. Here you could spend tens of dollars on Zion-related merchandise and various hiking and camping gear. The second stop was for a museum. Not a single soul exited to visit the little building. We're here at the museum, the pre-made voice message explained. But no one matched the excitement in our shuttle. I felt badly because while I did love a good museum, I didn't come to Zion for a museum. It was like going to a wine night and someone suggesting a whole bottle of beer, not the mood or on the agenda. The third stop was a 2-minute walk from the museum, which didn't warrant a separate stop. The third stop didn't need to exist at all. Why stop twice in the same tenth of a mile? The fourth stop was a rest center, but if the museum and visitor center acted as resting areas, why would a rest center also be needed? Don't the places that have benches and water count as rest centers? And finally, the shuttle lurched forward into the actual park. It's Lindsay from marketing. Here at the park, the bus could explode into giant cartoony flames, but the voiceover and speaker system would survive the wreckage. While human bodies fell in scarlet flames, the speaker system continued to drawl on and on about the park. Stop 7 is finally around the corner, and voiceover explains that to the left is a beautiful river walk with a waterfall. And to the right is Angel's Landing, which is a more strenuous hike, the lady said in a relaxing tone. When I hear the word strenuous, I think hard but accomplishable. For instance, trying to do a Costco run and pay less than $100 was strenuous. An hour on the elliptical was harrowing. Both those examples allow you to fail, but it would be okay. Spending $150 at Costco or exercising for 30 minutes on an elliptical would be fine. But the description of this hike as strenuous felt wrong. This hike deserved a more accurate title: murderous. The road to Angel's Landing tricks you because the journey starts out with a flat route that slowly inclines into the canyon overpass. You realize there's been an incline at some point, but you've been powering through it nicely. Is this the strenuous trail? I wondered, feeling confident in my amateur hiking ability. Then the elevation increases, but it's still decently flat. You begin to notice the incline difference and are slowing down. The word strenuous might come into play here. The third leg of the hike is the switchbacks. Switchbacks are zigzag paths carved into canyons. You'd sleepily walk 20 feet upwards to your left and then stop at a landing. You turn around, walk 20 feet upwards to your right, and stop at a landing. This would repeat multiple times in a grueling, monotonous way. You're zigging and zagging, swinging up the canyon in a straight upward line. The hike was definitely strenuous at this point. Part of me wondered why my father thought we could accomplish this hike. There was some competition playing out here. Both my father and I didn't want to be viewed as lesser. I purposefully and continuously set my hiking pace, so I was always faster and ahead of my father. My father quite often jokes about things that he has issues over. He would never think of himself as robust, but would constantly point out that I have a voluptuous figure. In my defense, thick is trendy at the moment. For me, this was not a father-son hike. This hike was a significant chance to prove that my younger vigor was no match for his older, fragile self. We arrived at what I thought might be the halfway point. We were over an hour in and now incorporating breaks. Other hikers around us heading down the mountain were encouraging us, but also gave their estimation on how far we had left in our hike. "Oh, you're halfway there. You're like 1/3 through the hike. I'd say 2/5 finished with your ascent." Time is not art. The varying estimates in the grand scheme of the hike left me more confused. It's like asking for an estimate on how many eggs one needed for a batch of cookies. You might need 3 or 4 eggs for the recipe. One wouldn't say it could be 2, 3, 5, 7, or 10 eggs. You'd look stupid and unknowledgeable. But people confidently provided outlier time estimates to the point where I had to scrap all data and assume we were far along. We reached this point in the hike where a natural wind tunnel formed, cooling our faces down underneath the afternoon sun. This stranger explained to my father and I what was to come. You'll have a flat road for a bit, then switchbacks, and then many switchbacks. I was grateful for the flat road, and the next switchbacks turned out to be easier than the former ones. Maybe I had grown accustomed to switchbacks, and these cursed paths patterns turned me into a better hiker. Those superhero movies always feature people whose training kicks their butt, yet makes them the best in their field. Perhaps I was going through my superhero training. Any confidence I had was shattered upon the final series of switchbacks, which proved to be steeper, more in number, and simply crushing. I constantly was stopping to catch my breath. My muscles were on fire. The sun was at its maximum height and beaten on me as if whacking me with a purse I tried to steal. All the agony washed away as soon as we arrived at the top plateau. It was one of those moments where you were thankful to be on this earth and to see creation spread before you. God forbid, but my hike wasn't too bad compared to what could have happened. But even a sprained wrist, a hungry stomach, or a couple of bruises would be easily made up for this view of heaven on earth. From this plateau, you could see a smaller mountain ahead where you'd rappel on chains to reach the mountain's true summit. We were at the pre-summit, where most people climbed to and returned. The remaining chain rope climb at the top was not recommended for anyone unless they were advanced hikers. Considering my father and I had the personality and look of the 2 old men from the Muppets, I instantly ruled that out for us. "Should we go on?" my dad said, a small glimmer of excitement in his eyes as he looked at the bare chain rope dangling and dancing in front of us. "We can't do that." "Are you sure?" My father looked skeptical as if I doubted our ability to crack a joke or drive a car in a straight line. At that moment, one of us was pretty sure of our limitations. The other was ignorant at worst and naive at best. "It took us 3 or 4 hours to get here," I muttered, swiveling a burnt hand to indicate that we were currently 3 hours deep on one half of our climb. "There's just no way we're going to make that. We would plummet." While I sometimes bend reality a bit to my visions, my father can have a misguided sense of what is achievable and what isn't. I remember one family trip, he convinced me to throw some stock into crypto. It was right when crypto was hitting a solid peak. Thanks to my dad's investment advice, I lost a couple of $100. I took that advice because he usually knows what he's talking about when it comes to money. Oh man, hey. So, yeah, that is our Angel's Landing story. And thank you. Oh, thank you. Thank you.
But did you go off the chains?
Oh, no, we were not going to go with those chains. No. Seriously. I thought I might close out real quick with some, in the back I have a random notes section that comes from my notes, and it's just a bunch of random little things. So we'll close out with that while we're here, because my Apple Watch died. So I don't want to go on too long, because, you know, it's enough of a vanity project already. Oh gosh, yes, what are you?
No, you got it.
We got time.
Do it. I was going to say, feel free to tamper girl.
So here's some random notes. I would be a good murder victim, because I leave behind so much DNA. Want to find out if you're the loser of your friend group? If your friend group went to the roller coaster park, would you always be riding alone? Poly, but open to new dynamics. Dynamics? Is this like work talk for, yes, this threesome is really raising our surplus? I'm so cheap that I'm the kind of guy who stocks up on Target clearance soap. You visit me in July and say, this Christmas tree snowdrop snow is divine. Someone told me that seeing each other's faces makes us smile. Smile as in, I'm happy to see you, or smile as in, your ugly face is so bad it makes me smile. I got a message from the Taco Bell app that asked, are you craving a burrito in your mouth? I'm relatively shocked. How does the Taco Bell app know about my lack of sex? I logged onto Hulu recently and found out that my life was used as the inspiration for their new show, Dating App Horrors, The Untold Story. Want to save money? Order fruity drinks at the bar that come with garnish. Get your booze with free fruit. Dangerous activity. Peeing into a urinal while wearing sandals. Ways to make young people feel old. The Nintendo Wii is considered a vintage piece of technology.
No.
Groans from everybody on the. I know it's true. It's vintage. Some of my wealthy friends are like, "We're going to Italy this summer," and I'm like, "Oh, I love visiting Little Italy." Has anyone ever left a penny in a take a penny, leave a penny? If you want to know who's going to heaven, it's people who leave their coins in that tray. Do you ever get a news alert about a celebrity death and you're like, oh my gosh, who? I love food products that will advertise how many grams of protein they have. This snack has 16 grams of protein per serving. It makes you feel like it's healthier. Oh honey, look, this gallon of lard has extra protein. I'll grab 2. Did anyone see that McDonald's engagement? 2 employees at McDonald's got engaged at work, which I can't criticize too much since I'm terribly single, but imagine visiting that McDonald's on the day of the engagement and wondering, okay, this is nice, but is my order done? I love when people use the word stoic as a compliment. Oh, great Aunt Jean is a stoic woman, so she was a bitch. Labeling something as stoic implies that the person is a bitch without saying the word bitch. If it's being used to describe something, it's not positive. The same effect goes with phrases. Fred follows a drum to their own beat. Not a positive compliment, just an excellent way of saying someone's a goddamn weirdo.
True story. I agree.
Yeah, right? Yeah. When I enrolled in a Catholic school for a grad school, I knew it would be religious. It's like going to a steakhouse and expecting steak. Well, during orientation, everyone kept talking about how God brought them to this program in class. I didn't have the heart to tell them that Google was the creator that brought me there. God might listen to what you need, but so does Google. And Google has a pretty optimized search engine.
Hell yeah.
I once went to a bar where the bartender told me, tell me what you like and I can make you a custom drink. I wouldn't say that I have trust issues, but I don't exactly like going blind to certain menu items or sashaying into creative off-menu interpretations. The worst example of this was when I ordered a drink at brunch that was $16. Monica will remember this. It featured one liquor I didn't recognize and I shrugged it off, thinking that it would be okay. The drink ended up being undrinkable and was wasted. Indeed, a life lesson, and arguably the most important thing I've ever learned in my life. Deciding to be friendly, I played along with the bartender's desires to have fun. Sweet, fruity vodka drinks, I explained to the bartender. I felt like this was an easy descriptor. I'd be happy with vodka, with any juice, sans grapefruit juice. What was the chance this place had grapefruit juice? Moments later, she comes over and serves a drink that at first glance looks neither fruity nor vodka-y. I took a sip and felt my throat clench in a gag. This is whiskey over rocks. My voice grew sour with a hint of rage. Is it opposite day? When she returned, I asked if she could do something to change the drink. Thankfully, she added a half gallon of simple syrup to remedy the situation. I'm still convinced to this day that I don't understand how she fumbled the bag. I remain convinced she thought I was telling her what I hated, and it served the exact opposite. Or maybe she believed that her whiskey over rocks was so tempting it would convert me. Bartenders around the world, please don't be like this bartender. I don't need to be impressed with your improv. Just make me something I like, please.
True.
Idea, skin product with hydrochloric acid. The best kind of skin is no skin. I realized that having a communications degree is knowing how to stalk for information, but make it seem academic. I'm not just stalking to find this person's social media, I'm doing research. The second asset of having a communications degree, you're able to take great photos. My body is too stubborn to be allergic to anything, but then I found out I was allergic to something. Love. We posted, I think it's funny. We posted an article about a Roomba deal at work, and some Facebook follower commented, "Not in my house." What on earth did a Roomba do to this woman to bring out such disdain? Let's see. Anything else that's good? Oh, I kind of like this one. Nothing good ever happens at a club called Rumor. First off, the only good rumor is the album Rumors by Fleetwood Mac. Naming your club Rumor is inviting negativity into your bar. It's the linguistic equivalent of pulling out the Ouija board. You'd never call your club Gunshots or Attempted Murder. Hey, where are you going tonight? I heard things are getting rowdy at Gunshots tonight. We should go to the Molesty Men Club. Okay, certain people might go to that establishment. Okay, this one's kind of funny. I'll read this one. And maybe then we'll call it a day. I don't know, maybe one more. Well, we'll see. Right. I was house hunting with my friend Sam. Sam and I wanted different things. I wanted a good location and a cheap price. And Sam wants stainless steel appliances and granite countertops. So Sam tells me, listen, there's this place that's a great location and has stainless steel appliances and would only be a $600 rent. $600 was cheap for Cleveland, but not cheap enough to be suspicious. $600 in Cleveland would be like $2,000 in an expensive city. Feeling confident about this house, Sam and I drove up to the gateway to hell. You know that U2 song where the streets called Bono's name? These streets were calling me to tell me to fuck off. The house Sam wanted to see on the outside looked like it had been built in the Home Depot Kids Craft Corner. If these walls could talk, they would let out a painful whimper before collapsing. Sure, the inside of the house was steel and granite city, but it's like they spent $30,000 on the inside of the house and then said, I don't think this house needs a lawn. The true highlight came as we stood in the kitchen that even the Terminator would think had too much metal. In the backyard was a grill pit that had a sideways shopping cart that acted like a grill. Imagine cooking hamburgers for everyone on a side-turn shopping cart over a fire that looked like it didn't meet any safety standards. I turned to Sam and pointed out the grill. Sam dared to say, but the stainless steel sink. Let's see, what else? Oh, here we go. I like this one too. Thin cookies are stupid. I'll have one thick cookie, because that's a big boy. But thin cookies mean I can have 3 or 5 or 20, and I don't feel bad because it's a light cookie. But then I end up eating 20 or 30 thin cookies because the size throws me off. At least I can adequately count and shame myself with one oversized cookie. I was driving down the street and all of a sudden this crossing guard just branched out into the middle of the road, ready to die on the job so some boy could cross the road. I don't know her salary, but I'm confident it's not worth it. If someone came to me and said I get paid $15 an hour, but there was a chance I might be hit by a car, I'd probably turn the job down unless it came with free food. A place the other day advertised that they sold warm gravy and queso, as if those things would be served cold otherwise. Let's see. Yeah, there's a few little things in.
Queso was so good.
A friend of mine is a dispatcher, and the other day they got a call that there was a bushfire at Dick's.
Bush stuff.
Usually we call that crabs.
It sounds like
Stop it. I can't with that. Are you serious?
Yeah, yeah, it's
Let's see.
A bush
If there's
fire
anything
with
else.
Vicks? I cannot be serious.
I think that might be it, because there's a lot, but I almost
And
want to.
Dawn gave it out just like
Dawn?
that.
I think that's good. Thank you so much. Well, I know we have a large crowd, so I don't know how we want to do the book signing.
I have 2 books to sign.
Are there any questions for the author while I'm here making a public appearance?
Well, I already asked my question. What did you make it to the top of the chains.
Yeah, no.
No.
Monica, a question from the audience? Or I'm sorry, miss.
So, like, you had another person on that Vegas trip when you and your dad went on the hike, right?
No, it was just us on the hike.
No, but I'm saying, like, there was another person on the trip with you.
There was? Oh, you were on the trip, but you weren't on the hike. Yeah.
And what did that person do?
Oh, that person stayed at the club all day. And that person was
I
at
just wanna
was having
highlight.
drinks, yes.
Oh.
Monica,
got it,
Monica,
got it.
for a little note. So Monica was
So
there.
I said, no. I Googled it and I said, you're...
I didn't Google it. I
And then
trusted his
Googled it, I
word.
said, absolutely not. Goodbye.
Like people
Did you see that
die on that.
yes.
Like, yeah.
I don't think I saw any animals. I was too busy like trying not to die.
And I didn't hear from them for like the entire time, and I'm like, oh my god, they died.
So Monica,
That's
the
a good
last,
thought there.
when my dad was in the hospital that summer, like the whole hospital, Matt did that on his podcast before this. Like he did the podcast about that story. And I played it for my dad, and my dad would get the giggles, and he just wanted to hear it over and over. Because he's like, wait, they went where? Like, John and Matt went,
They did.
where?
Mhm.
I didn't
Did
know.
they not know where they were going? I go, no.
How did your one bottle?
Like, I'm like, this is not Squire's Castle.
Well, I will say we had like a book bag with maybe 4 or 5 Dasani, like 16 ounces.
Okay.
So like we weren't like we had some water, but like we probably should have had more
The
water.
podcast version's funny too, because you're just talking about it on the fly. This is great. I'm saying he's talking about it on the fly. And he's talking about like, and then we see people with like their granola and their freeze-dried food, and we're
Yeah.
like,
And like, do
Oh.
we need that?
oh, like this is, yeah.
You know, wearing hats and
Like,
sunscreen.
oh, this isn't like Metro Park Squire's Castle? Like, what are we?
Well, this
Yeah.
is on medium. Like,
Any other questions?
And I'm not putting this up. Michelle being here, I don't know if you want to give us a little tambourine girl.
Oh yeah, I can give a little
I-
tambourine girl from
I
Michelle.
think we're all here, it's just a little more read.
You know, anyone who wanted to leave could have left. All right.
Just because
Yeah.
I do
No,
feel like.
it is really funny. You're
I
right.
feel like
I'm gonna read
When
the
you-
rest of this book in your voice.
I almost feel like if I'm gonna read that, I kind of want to read.
It's him
Did you
reading
do the
it.
audio of it? Oh,
Yeah,
that's
there's-
cool.
I'm not gonna lie. If we're gonna do that, I kind of want to read about Danny Kane and Paula Abdul at the same time. I might want to read that whole section because it's a really good
Okay.
section.
Just about concerts where you go and you're like,
Yeah.
what?
Oh, this is good.
What?
Yeah, this is good. It's only like 4 pages, so we were.
Okay. Are we all down? Is that?
We're down.
It's the mom and me just doing it.
Right? Go for
Mom's
it.
like, read more, son. Everyone else like, fuck. All right. Everyone else was like, ah.
It's time to go.
I go to bed at 9.
Everyone else is like, oh, okay, great, we're so excited. My mother got free tickets for a Danny Kane concert and offered them to me. I took my friend Deanna, if she's watching, down to the House of Blues, excited to hear the girl group behind a favorite hit single of mine, Damaged, and other various songs. The downtown Cleveland House of Blues can fit a couple thousand, the first floor devoted chiefly to a mosh pit. I had never been or since seen an emptier floor. Maybe 50 people or so, all of us pressed close to the stage. I like a good view at a concert, but I usually don't have the energy or attitude to bulldoze my way to the front. So being this close to Danny Kane felt undeserved. I was certainly unworthy of being this close to the cult's upper echelon. I was surrounded by tried and true Danny Kane fans. Who was I but someone utilizing a free ticket? The show commenced in a fog, which in the upper balcony would have looked dazzling, but up close was like getting pepper sprayed. The girls sauntered in with costumes that mimicked youth gymnastics competitors. The prop budget seemed to be $20. The only props were baubles and those ribbons on strings. There was no need for expensive accoutrements when the girls sang their hearts off. Who wants to hear more about my new album? One of the Danny Kane girls asked, which got a giant rouse out of the crowd. As the songs continued, my friend Deanna and I realized we were the only ones who didn't know any lyrics. Around us, people sang and chanted as if ordinary people were familiar with Danny Kane's album's deep cuts. We were so close to the stage that I knew the girls could see our faces when they walked by. We were not masked in concert hall darkness. So I began to ad-lib and pretend to mouth the lyrics because I didn't want the Danny Kane girls to feel badly that I was the only person in the venue who didn't know the music. In my cloud of anxiety, I thought about what might happen if a Danny Kane member saw me silent among singing fans. Would they stop the show? Even go as far as to cancel the show? Would a quiet me in the front be the last nail in the coffin? Would they retire altogether? Maybe they would get into a fight? It's okay that he didn't know, one of the members would cry in upset. Not everyone has to know every single damn song of ours. He was in the front row, another member chimed in. Everyone was in the front row, another Dandy King member would snarl before shattering their wine glass on the floor. There is one concert I will never forget. Even if my mind goes and my body barely supports itself one day, I will forever remember, forever your girl, Paula Abdul. Picture it, the 2018 Paula Abdul concert live at the MGM Northfield Park. For those unfamiliar with the suburban rural Ohio casino scene, MGM Northfield is a slots-only casino that hosts many concerts and comedians, all usually in the C to D list range. To enter, one has to walk through a waft of nicotine smoke and the scent of well-leveled liquor. My mother had won free Paula Abdul tickets, so I joined her for an evening of 80s hits. I didn't have any expectations going into the show. When I don't have expectations, I settle on an okay performance. Knowing that people just like me were present, Paula Abdul refused to surrender to just okay. The show opened with a bang, featuring a biopic of Paula Abdul's life and how she was a cheerleader. Cue the pom-poms. Another sequence involved her having bad dreams on a raised mattress while it stormed. She did a Frank Sinatra tribute. All these random things on their own seemed a little ludicrous, but together formed a fantastic mesh of intrigue and excitement. The sets looked like they were created by high schoolers for an all-school assembly about drug abuse.
It's true.
One set was designed to look like a dirty alley that not even a heroin addict would find charming. Displayed graffiti that said, "Scat Cat was here." Straight Up was performed while dancers strutted around on ladders and Paula stood around the ladders in that technique artists do where it looks like they're moving because everyone around them is moving. The same thing happened during Cold Hearted, where she was grabbed, repelled, spun, twisted, sashayed, and was catapulted in every direction you could think of by the dancers around her while remaining statuesque.
It's true.
There was a 5-minute homage to Paula Abdul's time on American Idol. It was as if they aired one of those best Paula Abdul American Idol moments videos you would see on Facebook. There was another scene which mimicked the plane injury Paula supposedly had, but is not on record anywhere. To mix these concepts together was not just a jarring biographical feature, it was like being on acid for the first time. Paula ended the show walking among the crowd, but you couldn't see her because she's so short. You would just hear her belted promise, "I'm forever your girl," and guesstimated where in the audience she was coming from. Another favorite MGM Northfield show was when we saw Men at Work. You might be wondering, why does that band sound familiar? You might be familiar with the song Down Under, with the flute solo and the iconic line, "I come from the land down under." Quintessential 80s with a bit of flair and pompousness. This is one of those shows where you don't know most of the music and you're waiting for the encore to hear things you're not familiar with. However, the most eye-catching moment of the night wasn't the singer, the lighting, or anything you would immediately think of when thinking of a concert. "I can't stop watching that tambourine player," I whispered to my mother, who immediately stifled a chuckle. "Oh, I'm only watching the tambourine player." My mother confirmed, proving once again I am my mother's son. Commanding the stage in a flurry of sound, flavor, and passion was a tambourine player who could make the most minimal instrument maximal in usage. She slapped the tambourine with every body part she could imagine. She even traded out for maracas and other shaking sound devices. Her peak moment for me was when she held the maracas by the bulbous section and proceeded to shake them. I really appreciated her audaciousness.
Yeah, go for it, girl.
"She has to be sleeping with the lead singer," my mother's friend Michelle explained.
Whoa.
She was super outrageous up there. Indeed, a quick Google search revealed that she was married to the one remaining member of Men at Work, and we all cheered like frat brothers who had discovered extra beer in the fridge.